All right, so good afternoon, LeRoy.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. It's really, really great to talking to you. I just this Sunday went to a powerlifting meet. It was all four lifts in one day, which I never did before,
hmm
and I'm not a fan of it. By the time I got to the deadlift, I was shot because we did the strict curl, the squat, bench, and deadlift. I was kind of fried. My third attempt deadlift. I
Yeah,
the bar and my body was like, nope, nothing in it.
it's crazy.
Yeah. But, do you do full power meets or you just do the strict curl?
Nah, I've always, early, like when I first started, I did full. And then once I stopped doing full, I just concentrated. Actually, I took a lot of time off and just trained away from it and just kept up with the bench, kept up with everything else, just not in a competitive form. I only probably kept up strong enough to be competitive on bench, and then just got back into it. Just stuck with the bench, focused on that, just did bench specialty, and then as of recently, just started getting into the strict curl part of it.
So how long have you been competitively strict curling?
I'd say competitively, I haven't. I only did my first competition in March of this year. I started training. I announced. I said, okay, I'm going to try the strict curl thing. I think there's supposed to be a meet in February. A lot of stuff with COVID that got scratched. There was supposed to be a meet at. I wanted to make my debut at the Arnold. Obviously, that got canceled. And then I think away in Texas, the first meet that I was actually able to join and actually go on the platform was, I believe, March.
Yeah. Joe Frenny from Strict Curl Nation. That was his pet project, getting the strict curl into the Arnold. He was devastated by that.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's crazy because I just got done doing a live and just had him on today. So it's funny how we run in the same circles.
Yeah, well, you know what? It's really not a big circle. Because I talked to some lifters that, I mean, I lift in 100% raw, and a lot of the lifters know the strict curl. Most of the meets have it now. But I've talked to guys in like the APF or USAPL, and they never even heard of strict curl.
Yeah.
So I think it's it's fairly. I only think in 100% raw, they've only been doing it for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. I don't know what other organization had it before that. So what organization are you lifting in?
I lift in the SPF. So SPF has it. It's traditionally their rule books are certified for power, and we've amended and modified it pretty much after the same as 100% raw and same as WRP. WRPF, pretty much the same governing bodies. But it's SPF, and then there's the IS, an International Strict Curl Association that CT has out on the West Coast, where most of everybody that does it in California. But I think it's only one or two meets a year.
Yeah, basically in 100% raw. The biggest guys, I think they're up around like 180 pounds, 190 pounds. Like, there's no 200-pound strict curler in 100% raw.
Yeah.
But is your organization drug tested?
Our federation is, as of now, is not drug tested.
But what about you personally?
Me personally, I feel if I went to a meet, I could pass. I do hormone replacement therapy, for testosterone, but it's almost like splitting hairs because it's crazy because I just had this talk with some friends where I could actually probably it depends on how nitpicky do you want to be, because you could say, well, drug testing is, or enhancements, but are you familiar with a blood panel, or have you done a blood panel?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just let the numbers speak for themselves. So if you're going to go by the average scale that most hormone or most doctors that are going to prescribe, so first and foremost, I'm 43, so I'm well within the age or parameters that someone would start to take on testosterone therapy. and I'm not trying to be cute, and I'm not trying to size anybody who's 100% drug free, but the numbers as they be, I just got my panels back, and I would be happy to make this public record. My numbers out of a 1 to 1100, mine came back at like 179.
Yeah, that's low.
That's ridiculously low. So I'm barely, I'm in my first months to get it back to where we could even say I'm in the ballpark of 500 or 600. So, because I've had people ask me, well, it's so much harder if you're 100% natural, but I could say, well, my testosterone levels are below natural.
Yeah.
So if we were to go on the honor system, would I go compete in 100% raw? No, because in my career, have I taken PEDs? Yes. But if we're going to be, splitting hairs, could I go and not say nothing and pass the drug test? Yes, I would pass the drug test.
Yeah. So, I mean, mine came in at like 350, something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm curling. I'm basically half as strong as you are. So I don't know how much it's really affecting, because it's ginormous.
Yeah. Well, I can say this as I've seen both sides of the argument, both sides of the spectrum. I'm not trying to be argumentative. I would tell people, Instagram probably shows at best 10 to 20% of the overall. I mean, you're getting a snippet. Like today, for example, I posted a video like the top set. There was actually 5 top sets, but I only posted one. Sets of 30 with 150 on a hammer. So you're seeing a 30-second clip of a 2-hour workout. So I don't even think there's enough coverage of the amount of body of work I do when you multiply that times 5-6 days a week times the 10-week training cycle. I'd say if you do the amount of volume I do, drug free or not, you're gonna end up having a massive curl. And I adopt the same. This is the same thing I did on bench. So to me, it's no surprise where I'm at, because when I benched, I expected to go past the 650. 700 was the goal I wanted. It didn't happen. I had a couple injuries, and when I got into the strict curl game, I said, make no mistake about it. I'm not out here to be, one of the better ones. I'm out here to be the best. And I set out. I had a couple mishaps in my training. I really feel I was right there, close enough to get the American record at my first comp. But where it falls, I'm happy to get the world, or to get the American record of my second competition.
Why do you think that you're able to get to this level, right? Like, I know you said you had injuries, but I mean, I'm winding up with bicep tendonitis and all these other issues, and it's like, by the time I get over them, I start training again. I gain a pound or 2 on my curl. For me personally, I mean, maybe it's just genetics. Like, it would take me like, I don't know, 100 years to catch up to you.
I don't know that. I think it comes back to. I think it comes back to the training. I think when I started off doing it, just like, I mean, I'll be honest with you. When I looked at the bench press, I did the same. It was almost the same. So the two go hand in hand. When I looked at the lay of land on the bench press, there was a New York, or Scott Mendelson was the top guy, and then shortly after him there's Eric Spoto, and then there was Kirill, a Russian. So I looked at I looked at it to the same perspective when I got into the strict curl game. There was CT, the American, at 225, and then everybody else on the top all-time list are all Russian. So I've always been intrigued with the Russian methodology, and even a little bit, I'll be honest with you, and pay some homage to CT. I'm not the person that's going to come out here and say to train 4 to 5 or 6 days a week at a singular movement or a singular discipline is overtraining. I think it's the opposite. I think if you were to look at different disciplines, I think if you were to look at a guy like Tiger Woods, the guy started golf when he was 3, probably practiced every single day. You look at an old school guy like Roger Clemens, or just any of the great pitchers of Nolan Ryan. Those guys were, they were knee high out there throwing the ball 5, 6, 7 days a week, playing multiple games. So the point I'm making is you look at any discipline, Martha Stewart probably cooked her ass off every single day. Anybody who's been great at something did it more than the proverbial by the book. You ask the average trainer who's certified and got all these certifications and a PhD and a degree in kinesiology, they're going to say, oh, to get better at the bench press, you should only, bench press once every 6 or 7 days. Anything else is going to be too hard on the nervous system. Well, you look at and you go talk to anybody, just have a casual conversation with anybody, regardless of body weight, who has reached an elite world status. These guys all were doing it 2, 3, sometimes 4 days a week. Yeah. I think once you cross that line to what the average person would call obsessed, that's where that line where you step over. And if you're well enough at it, you have enough passion and determination, that's when you're going to step into the path of greatness.
Yeah. But I think genetics comes into play too. I think like a perfect example, right? Like I've always heard it, people with different genetics, I've seen people that are stronger than me. I'm like, well, maybe they worked harder. But let me tell you, my wife and her sister, right? My wife has been powerlifting for 20 years. She's very strong. I mean, she at 100 pounds, she squatted 200, and a 250 deadlift. So she's pretty strong. But her sister started powerlifting like a year and a half ago, and she's exceeding that in such a short time frame. And we're just seeing her grow so fast, and it's just two different sisters. It's amazing.
How the one that's growing leaps and bounds. What would you say? What would you say that they were on the same training regimen?
Pretty much. Recently, she started squatting 3 times a week. We were like, that's a little crazy, I think, because she's still deadlifting, So
I think there's other variables. I'm not going to disagree. I think genetics plays a part, but I really think you have to look at not just, and especially with this new generation, not just the body of work, but what are they doing on their off time? Because I know a ton of old school lifters who lifted every single day, but their eating habits, their supplementation, their hydration was shit. And you get some of these new guys when it's just hand fed to you, okay, get your electrolytes, get your Gatorade this, get that. This newer generation, I don't want to say they have it easier, but the knowledge and it's so much easily accessible. Like if you were, I'm 43, I'm sure we're close to the same age. So it's probably, you probably had to, research so much stuff to just get a small part of the information that's readily available to this newer generation. I'm not saying the new generation has it easier. I just think the access to the information to take better care of yourself is more obtainable.
They do have it easier. No, you could learn so much on Instagram, seeing what other people are doing, following them. I learned so much more now than I did back. I started lifting in 2001. Like the Stone Age of powerlifting. I like to be like. I was telling someone the other day about the deadlifting, how they used to have to always clean the bar because there was always blood on the bar from the deadlift, from coming up your shins. And they were like, "What do you mean? Like, why would we get blood on it?" I'm like, "We didn't have socks. Like, there were no deadlift socks, or they weren't allowed. I don't know, but no one was using them, and everyone was getting blood on the bar."
Yeah. No, yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, you're right. Rightfully so.
I mean, there's other things. I mean, I don't know, safety squat bar. I don't think there was a safety squat bar in 2001. Was there?
No. Yeah, and that's a really good point. And maybe we can segue to this because I get this probably probably, I don't want to say hate, that's a strong word. I mean, I think some people, nowadays, especially because some generations, some people are so cupcake soft. You can say the slightest thing and everyone's going to get fucking offended. But the case in point, no, is I get a lot of DMs like, why don't you use the traditional, I think it's the OB, Ivanko, da 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 da. And I say this, and because I got a lot of criticism after I broke the record from a lot of CT loyalists, a lot of American traditionalists, if you will. You were wearing a power suit. I'm like, nah, dude, is it okay to be my skin? I cuss on this, or are we keeping it clean?
I could, yeah, you can curse. I just click the button to say this cursing in it.
Oh, no, okay, I'll do it. Because if you're gonna YouTube, I want to make sure it's algorithm friendly. So there's a lot of people that get up in arms because you use the power suit. No, it's called a singlet. And I just had this conversation. Never have I, if I had to look at the three main differences between now and the old record, I'm like, well, I'm not gonna knock because technology has afforded me to lift with a better bar. And second of all, Ivanko or Ghost, who's my sponsor, didn't provide the bar, but they give me leeway to use whatever bar I want to use and whatever plates. So we use Ivanko plates, and I use, it's called a Gopher bar. Other federations, and I'm not saying this in a bad way, I love Ivan, who runs Ivanko, tremendous guy, great business owner, does tremendous things for the sports. One of the things he does for the sport, especially curl with 100% raw and CT's federation, and he's one of the major backers. So of course, you're going to use the equipment from your major title sponsor. Now, back in the day, he was pretty much like the only kid on the block that was sponsoring and having anything to do with strict curl events. And I'm glad he did. But I'm sure if there was another kid in town who had this bar or these kind of plates, then that's what would be being used. So I'm not going to knock myself for the advent of technology and because better bars have been produced than the old school bar that's been used for the last years. Just like I'm not going to knock myself for wearing wrist wraps opposed to CT wearing tape or, the old athletic tape that's used for football, and I'm not going to knock myself for wearing a traditional certified singlet versus other people lifted in a t-shirt and shorts. Was it sanctioned? It is what it is, but I'm not going to knock myself when you're trying to compare myself, who lifted with calibrated legal plates, to a lift that was done with pig iron plates. You know what I mean? It's like, but I see so much of that. But the one thing I don't see, and I respect this, I don't see Denis Saplenkov, the guy who has the overall world record, knocking any of the up and coming Russians who are using a more, let's just say, a more aggressive bar. More of the bars that the Russians use are more almost hammer grip because the pronation is much easier on the wrist. It doesn't make it easier. It just makes it more suitable if you are front delt dominant or a heavy bench presser and you have a hard time with pronation to use the more aggressive bar that the Russians are using. So when I was able to have a hand in say of what we were going to use in the federation as far as SPF, I said, I'm not going to put myself at a disadvantage to keep traditionalists who want to see Americans curl less than 200 pounds and not keep up with the Russians, or I can go and use the same stuff with the Russians because the Russians are not going to say, okay, the Americans lift less than us, so we're going to switch to their bar. And I see the same thing in soccer. People want to sit here and bitch and moan and complain. The Europeans and, the South Americans are so much more dominant and it's almost cheating because they have the soccer academies. I'm a fan. If you know your kid's going to be a great soccer player, let him go at an early age. Yeah. Let the Europeans do what they do. We should do more of that than try to cry about, fairness and equal opportunity of equipment.
All right. Well, let's talk about technique. Now you can see me. All right, let me grab the bar right behind me.
Yeah.
All right. So I use this curl with a wide grip, and everyone who has a good curl really is curling with the inside grip, and they kept telling me to go inside. So, right. So how I'm starting, right? Can you see me? Right. So I'm starting right here, right. And what I'm doing is, oh my God, I bring my elbows, I'll try and flare out a little bit,
Yeah.
bring my shoulders up. And then when I get to here, I drop my shoulders and try and get under it and bring it up.
Yeah.
Is that sort of what you're doing? Or are you doing something totally different?
Kind of similar. I'm more of an inside grip. I hear some people say, "Oh, it should be traditional outside." I think whatever works for you. Because here's the thing, it's naive to think you at your weight, me at my weight, or a super heavyweight at 300 pounds is going to have the same pronation and even the same starting point as someone who weighs like $130. It's just, no matter how you slice it, from the grip to the hand position to the bar path, is going to be different because it's a different type of body type. You know what I mean? Just like it's the same argument that people try to make with sumo versus conventional. I'm just not a fan of style points. I'm not going to say this guy's deadlift is better than this guy's because he pulled conventional and this guy pulled sumo. You know, I just, to me, I'm old school. I think weight is weight. Just like I don't get caught up in the argument that some people say, oh, it's form when someone arches their back versus someone who doesn't. I think weight is weight.
Yeah, I'll never deadlift with a straight back. It's just never gonna happen.
Yeah, but I agree. I think your technique is good. I don't see a flaw in your curl technique.
Yeah, it's still new. For a while, like it just was a thing. It came into 100% raw. The strict curl, we were like, oh, that's cool. And I just grabbed the strict curl bar and just started curling. No one told me anything. I was doing an outside grip, and yeah, and then eventually, especially this one guy, Bruce Knox.
Yeah.
Yeah, he I did a podcast with him, and he was showing me some things, and then I watch his videos, and I watch your videos. I watch some guys' videos, and I see, this, like, you got to be quick off a lot of explosion and momentum, off the bottom, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not just like a regular. It's not just a curl like that. It's you gotta. It's close to your body, and like the way you grip the bar too is another thing. You can't be out here. You gotta be tight with the.
Yeah, that's why I like for accessory work. I like a lot of the V stuff, the V bar, and I like a lot of the preacher curl. Yeah. And I think mainly the thing that I see too many people do is, I think too many people think and hear the word strict curl and they think everything they do has to be super strict. And I believe the opposite of that. I think the more you break it down into 4 or 5 different movements and you work at being really efficient at those movements, and then you can put it all together, I think that's going to make the most effective curler, or most all-around complete curler.
Yeah, so I just came out of this competition Sunday. Yeah, I'm gonna start doing, like off the wall, just standing preacher curls, and then a lot of that, and a lot of hammer curls, a lot of volume of hammer curls.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm gonna do anything with the bands right now. You mentioned that you saw me doing in the video. I think I'm just gonna do some basically sets of 8, 10, like sets of, make 5 sets of 8 to 10. Yeah.
The bands are important because it's going to work. It saves a lot of wear and tear that you would take on by doing preach curls, but allows you to address the time under tension, which is going to save you a lot of just overall wear and tear and time away from the platform, because you're going to take on less injuries. Because once you can get your muscles and your CNS activated to that time under tension, because most of the time, if you take a grind, you're looking at anywhere from 5 to 10 seconds. So that's what I try to duplicate. I try to duplicate the grind, the time under tension, without having to constantly put my biceps in harm's way by curling 200 plus pounds.
Yeah.
Because if the tension's getting too tight, you just let go. But it's harder to do that when you have weights in your hand.
My wife said one day, actually, I got pissed off. I was like, well, I was doing something, and she was like, oh, you're not going to get hurt because it's not that heavy anyway. And I was like, what?
Oh
Basically,
man.
like I'm not curling 200 pounds anyway, so it's not, so you'll be okay. Even so, it doesn't matter if you're doing stupid shit. So
Yeah.
I don't know. What's your opinion on that? You think, guys that are doing less weight than you can get hurt, injured, or
I mean, I think it's all relative. Yeah. Like if I drop, 300 pounds on my chest on the bench press, is that going to crush me? Probably not. But if you take someone that weighs 150, that's double their body weight. So the relative question you'd have to ask is, if I drop 700 pounds on my chest, is it going to crush me? Probably so. I don't think you can necessarily say there's a defining weight over 200, under 200. I think it's all relative to the weight and proximity of how much your overall body mass is.
Yeah, I get crushed with 300. I forgot to set the catches for my bench. I bench by myself, but like the catches are set like perfectly. So like when my chest is puffed up, like I don't hit the catches. They just take an exhale, it'll hit the catches. They weren't set right. They were set too low. And then so this last rep, I didn't make it. And now I'm stuck on my chest, and oh no, I didn't the catches. I had to roll the whole thing off to the side and slide under it. But if it was 300 pounds, it would have killed me.
Yeah. Without a doubt. Well, I'm glad it did. I'm glad you're alive.
I have a video of it. It's so embarrassing. I couldn't put it on. It's it looked like a survival video, like trying to get out from under this bar. You can actually see the look in my face, like, oh shit. But yeah. And normally I'm asking guys if they strict curl, but your strict curl is your thing. Are you coaching anyone?
Yeah, I have about I'd say about off and on about 10 people that I coach right now. I have a couple women that are doing some great things. I have a couple men that are, I have a couple that are on the 190s. I have a couple that are close to maybe even breaking the 200 mark. So it's been it was kind of nerve-wracking because I was coaching a team of 6 for theirs and my first curl competition. So it's one of those things where it's me as a bench press coach. I'm a firm, like, trust the process. And here I am coaching something that I haven't even done yet. So I'm like, man, I better go to this meet and get this shit right. Or, I have a lot of people looking at me a certain kind of way. But all things prevailed. We went to the meet. Everybody hit, PRs above, their gym, what they were hitting against the wall in the gym. Because we actually have Ghost, my title sponsor. They built me, a competition grade strict curl platform. So we do get practice against the wall. We just don't use it very much. But so everybody hit PRs in the meet opposed to what they were doing in practice. So I felt good about that. It was kind of self-rewarding to see the sport grow and to see people want to put trust in, something that's both new to me and something that's obviously new to a lot of people as the sport continues to grow.
Coaching at a competition is exhausting.
What was that?
Coaching is exhausting. It's almost as exhausting as lifting in a competition.
You know what? It can be, but I think just as a life philosophy, the same way I'm passionate about bench is so easy to me because I stay passionate and I coach about what I know, and I'm quick to defer and point people in the direction of where they can get the best help possible for them. So people ask, oh, hey, can you help me with diet and stuff like that? So basically my philosophy is you have to personify the teaching. So I feel like I'm not the strictest dieter. I'm not the guy that's going to, go on, a show and just be this beautiful, awesome transformation of a guy who was this and now he's this. That's not me. It's not saying I don't want to be heart healthy and I'm not doing things to get there. I just know that's not my area of expertise. So I'm not going to try to coach people on stuff that I don't feel I'm efficient as I should be to be coaching other people. So when it came time for bench and for strict curl, I'm a firm believer in just being able to practice what you preach and lead by example. So for me, coaching football was exhausting. It was mentally exhausting and stuff like that. But coaching bench press and strict curl, it's one of those things I've never had a problem, obviously, because I still compete, trying to be that person that just does stuff and leads by example. And I think if you do it in the right way, you're going to get people to want to listen and follow because you're in a position they want to be in. And that's just kind of just my overall philosophy. I'm not the type to take advice from someone who's not in a position that I would want to be in. So I don't try to lend myself to coaching people at stuff other than what I know I can call myself an expert in.
Do you lift in your gym in pounds or kilos?
Do I lift in pounds or kilos? It's America. I lift in pounds. When I go to meet, I know the kilo chart, but I call everything out in pounds, and then I'll get technical with the kilos.
Yeah, no, we live. Yeah, I mean, basically all of my stuff down here is from closed down gyms. When the gym closes down, I'm right there to like buy up the equipment and stuff like that. But yeah, we lift in pounds, and then my clipboard, I got the kilo chart right on the.
Yeah. And it's funny. I don't know if I'm a traditional. I'm kind of old school. I'm kind of funny like that. It's like I'd say in my head, it's probably the most cockiest, arrogant, probably asshole soundtrack you could possibly play at the gym if I was able to put my thoughts on an intercom, because I'll sit here and I have some really nice chrome Ivancos. I think you see them in a lot of the videos, and I have some, I have a couple that are calibrated, and I'll see these people, and this just blows my mind because at Big Tech's in the middle of not almost in the middle of the gym around the power area, there's two different racks that got competition calibrated Ivanko plates, and I'll see people go out of their way to get the key, check out, to use these Ivanko plates. I'm old school. I'm like, if I'm going to deadlift and I'm going to get out the calibrated plates, I better be fucking pulling like 700 or 800 pounds. But I'll see these people put like 200 pounds on there. I was just like, why don't you just use two standard 45s? Why are you making a spectacle? And then these people go to a competition and hit these subpar numbers. And I mean, I get it, to each their own, but it's more, I think, of a generational thing. Like, some people are fine with the participation award and they like to be seen going through the motions. They like to post on, and I'm not saying anyone who posts isn't a real person or a real lifter, but you have these people who will go and they'll wear their singlet. They'll get all their SBD stuff. They'll have the fucking nicest tripod, and they'll do all this stuff. And I'm doing the cube method this month, and my hypertrophy training calls. And I'm like, you're so technical, but your lifts are garbage. And then I'll see people like myself. I'll just go to the gym and I'll just throw on pounds. I don't take time out of my training to get that technical.
Yeah, I'm untechnical and garbage, so I guess I fall within you.
No, I'm not, and I'm not knocking people. I'm not knocking people, but I think, like, I mean, to each their own. I'll just say that.
No, I don't have calibrate plate. I don't even know who actually. I have 3 power bars. I actually don't know who makes them. I don't. One I think my deadlift bar is from Rogue. That's my only actual name brand bar. Everything else is, and I have plates that are so old. They're like that thick. They're 45 pounds, but you know what I'm talking about, the really old ones.
You got like the old school, probably the York barbell plates.
Yeah, they're thinner. They're like,
yeah.
You put them on after your first plate, they slide right on, but they're so wide. But
yeah.
Well, yeah, all my plates, like, they've got like my old 25s, the thick ones, they've got little nicks and stuff on them. They've got to probably be like 24.6 pounds or something like that.
Yeah. It's funny because I always make fun. You East Coast lifters crack me up because you guys are so old school to a fault. Like I'll be at meets and whenever I hear the plates rattle, I know it's two things. I'm like either it's someone that's a fucking masterclass lifter or they're like East Coast guys because y'all don't believe in clamps for nothing. Like most East Coast guys will just throw on the plates and they like to hear the rattle and all this. And I'm like, and they're like, why don't you like the old school rattle? I'm like, well, because each time there's a slight rattle in the shift and plate, multiply that times however many reps and sets times a 10-week training cycle, all that little deviation is why you're going to have more bumps and bruises and causation for injury. I'd rather throw on a clamp and keep my stuff tight. But then I also have a vested interest because I have a signature collar with Lockjaw. I've been a Lockjaw athlete for 5 or 6 years, so I have more skin in the game to advocate, putting collars on than most people. But I would, even if I didn't, I would still say put on collars.
I guess I'm half of that because a lot of times for my warm-ups, I don't. I think I'm just being lazy about it.
Or maybe you just need, there's several different types. I'm not trying to make this a plug for Lockjaw, but there's several different kinds of clamps that are easy on, easy off that you can probably get.
Well, yeah, I got these cheap ones. These are for my benching and my.
Don't even show it. Those are like rogue. Don't even. Those are garbage.
Those are for.
I'm just kidding.
They don't gotta be strong because they're just for benching, and you know what I mean. Like nothing's. I mean, I don't know. For my deadlift, I have better ones. I don't know what I have for my deadlift. These don't move. Gronk. I don't know. These guys, you could put tons of these. Those don't move. I like them on my deadlift because I like to keep my deadlift nice and tight. I don't like the bar being sloppy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Be nice and tight. Those are good. All right. Do you train stomach?
Do I train stomach? Yeah, I train. I'm not like 6-pack summer ready, but I train. I'm more kind of a 4-pack or keg, if you will, if that's a shape.
I drive a lot of people nuts. A lot of personal trainers that I know, they go crazy when I say that.
Oh, if you train stomach, no, but I like the little, I like the ab roller. I like crunches and old school stuff like that.
Yeah, very recently I've gotten into doing like the squat workouts and stuff that my wife does, and I think it's starting to help my squat. Just like I have a horrible tendency, like when I get like a PR in my squat, I'm very pitched forward, like it's like a lot of back in my squat, but it comes up.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna do actually a lot of front squats now. I'm gonna do a bunch of front squats after this competition. And try and work on that a little bit because I think that's going to help. But and good mornings, but I've done good mornings in the past and it really hasn't helped the issue. But
yeah,
I'm gonna give the front squats a try. Plus I also bought a reverse hyperextension machine.
Yeah.
So I just got it like 2 months ago. I really haven't gotten into using it that much. So hopefully that's going to help too. It was supposed to come Friday, but it's coming Monday now. I have tightened. It's a cheap one because I got no money, but it's the cambered Swiss bar.
Oh, okay.
Because I want to do more volume, and I'm already starting to feel some tendonitis here. So you know how like you feel it coming on. It's not a yet, but like it's coming.
Yeah, it's like you just know.
You just know it's coming, and I'm like, I want this bar to come so that I can work with that because everyone is telling me. I don't know. I want to hear from you that it doesn't put the abuse on your body that being on the bar like this does.
For bench press or for curls?
No, for bench press.
Oh, I mean, it helps. You know, I would say a Duffalo bar is probably your best bet, but the hammer, the different grip variation is going to help. But I would say, especially on your strict curl, the hammer curl is probably one of the most important movements that you can do. So you're not putting as much stress on your bicep, so you can overload the arms without destroying your biceps, and you're able to train more frequently. I'm a huge fan. I use the Kabuki bar, the Cadillac bar by Chris Duffin. It's probably one of the staples. As a matter of fact, I just did a post with it today for the hammer curls I was doing.
I know. I'm going up to help a friend in New Hampshire run a meet and in 2 weeks, and he bought the Cadillac bar, and I want to try it, but I mean it was $600. I was like, the Titan bar was $200.
Oh yeah, yeah. You gotta use what you gotta use. But if someone asked me to say which couple bars are gonna be instrumental to building a better better bench foundation, I would say the Duffalo bar and then the Cadillac bar. And if someone asked me about the strict curl, I would say Cadillac bar would be my number one bar of choice. If I could only train with one bar, it'd definitely be the Cadillac bar.
Yeah, so I have a Duffalo bar, and now I'm getting basically the fake Cadillac bar.
Yeah. So by all means. And then depending on the angle of the handles, because the Cadillac bar, you can keep your handles like this, or you can flip it around so it's like this. It really just depends if you're trying to do preacher hammer or if you're trying to do standard standing hammer. But it doesn't seem like a big deal, but I'm able to train a lot more frequently because of the use of that bar, and I've incorporated, which is crazy. And this whole, to me, it's funny because it's all, me and my friends were joking at it. It's almost like being able to make all these like crow pies, because there's so many people like, oh, you should have trained this, or you should have used that, or what are you doing? That doesn't make any sense until you get in the meet. And then you actually need the numbers for validation. I'm like, yeah, this is why I did this. This is why I did that. So it's funny to hear these same people that 2 months ago were knocking all the methodology are now actually starting to wrap their brain around, okay, I see why he trains this. I see why he trains that, But I mean, I knew it and I had faith in it the whole time. But, it doesn't mean anything until it translates and you actually put numbers up on the platform.
Well, listen, I'm listening to you. I'm gonna start doing some volume with hammer curls. I'm gonna use that Titan bar for hammer curls.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do, with the curl bar off the wall. And,
yeah.
if at my next competition I don't break a PR, it's gonna be on you.
Hey, I stand behind it. You let me do your program, and I guarantee you not only break some PRs, you'll break some state records as well.
You know what I have to do? I have to listen for the signals. I messed up on my second attempt. I curled before the curl signal. Do you have that? The curl, the down, and the rack?
Yeah.
I went onto that platform like a raging bull, and I just yanked it up, put it down in red lights.
Yeah.
That's horrible when you get it. Oh boy, I lost you altogether. Good. We're good. I paused.
I apologize. You know what? That's the thing. I don't know if it's an iPhone thing or if it's a Zoom thing. Even when you go to disconnect an incoming call, it still cuts off the Zoom.
Oh yeah, I got red lights on my second attempt for that. Yeah, I beat the signal.
Yeah.
You know what? Training with signals. I always train with signals before the competition, so I don't forget. But I did it anyway.
You know what? Not to be funny. I can only answer it how I can answer it. I don't train with signals, and when I bench press, I never trained with commands. But in my defense, and if you were to go back, I'm the same guy that had fun making videos where I'd pause 600 pounds on my chest for 10 seconds. You know, I do 650 for like a 3-second pause. So as far as the commands, I've never been what's called a rolling or a soft handoff when it comes to bench press. Some federations, as soon as your handoff guy gives you the bar, you can start. I've always trained under USPA guidelines where you have to wait for that start. I always train with a like ridiculous, exaggerated pause. And then when I get it up, I've never been quick to throw it back to the rack. So as far as bench press, the way I train in my training style has always been kind of hand in hand with what happens at a meet. So I remember it only took me, I think I was 19. I went to a meet in California. I lived in Washington State at the time. And I remember I was going to open up with, I think I was going to open up with like 500 something pounds, and it was going to break. I think it was going to set like a state junior record, but it was also going to beat one of this local. He's like the local gym bro legend. And I'll never forget going to that meet. And these people were so up in arms. They did I swear, I went to the meet. I'm watching everybody else in the flight. They touch your chest. Okay. Press. By the time I get up there and it's announced, okay, he's going to attempt, a junior record, a state overall record. I swear to God, I didn't get the press command for like 5 seconds. And I just sat there and looked at the head judge. I'm like, you guys are fucking with me because I'm not one of your local yokels. And then there was another time where actually I always said to myself, if I went to a meet where it was just like a fuck off meet where it didn't mean anything to me, I would have some fun. So I went to this meet and it was a couple of years ago, and I have a video of it. It was USPA Nationals. So I go there and I pause and I lift to the commands, and I have this judge, one of the judges on my opening lift, red lighted me. And I was like, hey, what'd you red light me for? And he goes, oh, you jumped the pause command. So I said, you know what? I go, look, my next one, I swear to God, bro, I'm going to show you what a pause is. So you'll see it. I'll try to send you the video. I get the start. And so I come down. No, it was like 585 on my chest. I pause it there. And I come down. I always bring it down nice and stable. I bring it down. I hit my chest. I'm just letting it rest there. And then sure enough, because I brought it down so stable, I get a quick press command. So you'll see the ref or the back judge, the head judge will go press. And I'm just sitting there holding it. It was like a good 5 seconds. And then I just press, and then I get the rack, and I just turn around, and he couldn't help. He knew what I did. He knew I was fucking with the side guy who set me on the red light. And I was just like, and I asked him when I was coming off the platform, I was like, hey, was that did I meet the command on that one? And he just started shaking his head because it was such a nitpicky thing that he did. Normally in my younger days, I wouldn't have ever talked to a ref like that. But now that I was an older seasoned veteran, I was like, oh, I'm going to toy with you guys back.
The whole sport of, do you consider yourself a powerlifter just doing straight curl?
I'm not. No, I don't. That's that's a good question. It's a good question. Do I consider myself a power lifter? No. I say what I do falls in the sport of powerlifting, but it's like it's one of those chicken or the egg kind of things because it's like anything in life. The people who give you the most shit are probably the people that aren't doing it, and the ones who are doing it at a high level, they don't really care. You know what I mean? It's like,
well, I know
it's like most of the guys who give me like, well, you don't do all three lifts. I was like, seriously, I was like, in my day, and I say in my day because I'm an older guy now. I'm a master lifter. But when someone's opening squat is say 300 something pounds, and then they're pulling like 350 on the deadlift, I was like, you're squatting dead. Don't beat my bench press. So who's really the power lifter? You know what I mean? It's like, or even if it's in the 600s, I was like, because I would get that from, some other guys. Oh, well, you don't squat. I'm like, I incline press more than you squat. You really can't tell me nothing. Are we seriously going to have this conversation? So I don't think I would call myself a power lifter because amongst the average, I'm better.
Yeah.
I get a lot of shit for that. I stand by that statement. I tell people some guys should be lucky I don't train deadlifts because I got this shit my whole bench career. Oh, you're just a bencher. You're just a bencher. Well, I'm also one of the top 10 in the world to do it all time. So I think it worked out in my favor. Oh, strict curl's so tough. You're not going to do this. Second meet, number top 5 in the world all time, number 1 in U.S. history. It only took me 2 weeks to do it. So I tell people it's not if or whatever, it's when. If I decide to go to deadlift, I'll be one of the top 20 to ever do it. If I decide to go into squats, I'll be one of the top 20. I just am very methodical about what I choose to do and go after. I've never been someone that wants to be average or okay at a couple things. I want to be the best of what I put my heart and set my mind out to do.
Yeah, I think it just is what it is. I think that, I mean, I don't think there were even single lift meets when I started powerlifting. Was it? Well, I don't know. Was there when you started?
There has, I think, but it's like the people who make a big deal about it. Here's and you know, maybe I'm a shit talker, but the average person who's going to walk around and put on their Instagram or their Facebook, I'm a power lifter, they're probably average lifters at best. Yeah. And here's the thing, the elites who do all three, no matter how you slice it up, you go across the lay of the land and you look at your top known IG or your famous or the guys who are, let's just say the guys who are making money at it. And I mean, are you pretty familiar with a lot of powerlifters? Yeah. Okay. So Ray Williams, I love Ray Williams to death. Ray Williams does all three lifts, but I think you can make the argument that Ray Williams is going to go down in history, no matter if he writes it or if people write it about him. He's always going to be associated with the best squatter of all time. Do you think the people in the powerlifting world or Ray Williams cares that he has a bench press 600? Is he less of a powerlifter because he's only the best in the world with the squat? No. Do you think, I mean, you think people care that Thor isn't a 600-pound bench presser, but yet he pulls 1,000? And then when you look at it, when you want to talk about strongman powerlifting, the best of the best, there's probably only a couple people who are elite level at 2 of the 3. There's very few people that are elite level at all 3.
Ed Cohn. I mean,
Ed Cohn, strongman. So Eddie Hall is probably proficient. If you were to do a powerlifting meet, he'd probably be a legit without straps 800 to 900 puller and a 600-pound bencher, which would be almost across the board elite at any federation. Versus the guy who's doing it, in my eyes, is a guy like TD Smash, or you look at a guy like Kirill, the Russian. A lot of people know this about Kirill. Kirill went to a meet, and this blows my mind for a guy who was a bench specialist. Kirill went to a meet and opened at 700 across the board. You know what I'm saying? A 2,100 total on his opening list. He opened at 700 bench, 700 squat, 700 deadlift, and just said, I'm done for the day. Only took him 3 lifts. You know what I mean? But he's a bench specialist. So I think some people put too much weight into that argument instead of just recognizing Ray Williams is a great squatter. You know, his bench and his deadlift are they're good.
I did that for the first time ever. I didn't do all 3 attempts at this competition. I've been maybe to 40 competitions. I did that after my second attempt bench. I knew that was it. I knew that was all I had. And I was like, well, I'm not going to waste any. I was like, I'm done. And that was the first time I ever did that. I think it's actually not that horrible of a tactic. But, what was I thinking about? I don't know.
I have respect for, to answer, I have respect for people who do all 3. Do I think the people who don't matter put too much emphasis on it? Yes, I do. Because I could go out, if you gave me a month, and I'm not even playing, you give me 1 month to train, I could go out and you hear in powerlifting for super heavyweights, the coveted number is 2,000 or better. Yeah. I could take a month, I can stop strict curling, get back in the bench and start like aggressively training squat and deadlift. I could go to a meet in 1 month time and open 700 squat, 700 pull, 600 bench, and there's your 2,000. Yeah. And it only take me 3 lifts to get it, and I'm not a guy who's been doing it for years and years and years. I would just need a month of training to do it. So to me, do I respect all 3? But I think like I said, I think a lot of people put too much emphasis on it for making it more than what it is.
As a big bencher, I know 100% raw. A couple meet directors have done overhead press competition. Is that something you would want to compete in?
The competitive part of me says yes, because I'm a competitive person. The business part of me would probably at this time would probably say no.
Yeah.
For me to do it because just my training methodology, I'm very, very, very adamant that I don't do overhead pressing to do anything that's going to screw up my rotator cuff or that's going to drastically change the bar path of my bench. So right now, I would say because strict curl is kind of the bread and butter of what I'm doing right now, as far as it's helping, with pay the bills along with bench press and basically if I'm pushing, my contracts are stated as long as I'm pushing bench press and or strict curl, then I'm pretty much gold in all the contracts I have now. So for me to formally go out there and start saying I want to become a great overhead presser, there'd have to be a lot of incentive to do it because I have an onus to these companies that I've signed a contract to not go out there and do something that's going to put me in harm's way, because some of these contracts are like 2 to 3 year contracts.
If you were a younger guy,
No, I would. I love overhead press. Yeah. I grew up. It was probably one of the basis of my foundations, especially when you have the old school universal machines and they had the seated press machine. I was one of the first kids in like junior high to want to go everybody wanted to do the stack. So to me, that was one of my first feats of strength when I could do a seated, I don't know, maybe it was 200 pounds, press the stack. So to me, that was pretty big back in the day.
All right. Your training, right? Your dedication in the gym, has that helped you in life to get through hard moments?
Definitely. I think everybody has a vice. I just don't think all vices are deemed as good. So you could easily say some people's vice is alcohol, some people's vice is the gym. I joke around with my friends. You know what? I'm going to go hit some bars. What bars do you guys go to? That's the difference in what your outcome is going to be. I go to lift bars that are going to help me improve my physical strength. You guys go to bars because you want to fucking single and be mingle and all that other stuff. So to each their own. You know what I mean?
That's really good, different bars. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the bars you go to in the company you keep say a lot about you.
If you could give yourself advice, right? Like all the knowledge you have now, you've been lifting for what, like 30 years, 25 years?
Yeah.
Right? You can go back and tell yourself like one thing, like what would it be?
From a technical standpoint, I've been going through this a lot lately. I would say incorporate more, as far as for what I do for bench and curl now, incorporate more grip strengths. Grip strength has been something that I've just, as of recently, come into, and it just has so many good reasons why you should do it. But I think the overall advice I would give to myself is train hard, train frequently, train all the time. Go on a training cycle, and when you feel you're strongest, then jump in a meet. If I had to give my professional self, and I think if the one thing that makes it harder, and you see this with a lot of athletes, is it's all fun and games when you train, and you think you want sponsorship. And then when you get it, and then you start taking that sponsorship money, and I'm talking real money. I'm not talking like $100 prize here, $500 here. I've had contracts where you're getting paid $2,500 to $3,000 a month to be a sponsored athlete, meaning you pretty much might work part-time 9 to 5 or whatever the case may be, but you're getting paid through several endorsements over the tune of $3,000 to $5,000 a month, which I would consider you're what's considered a professional powerlifter. I think too many times in my career, because I've had those endorsements and because you take sponsorship money, meaning they cut you a check to fly to X amount of events, they expect you to place. So the last thing they want to see is you do dumb shit like, and I'm not knocking, I'm just using it as a reference. The last thing they want to see a bench presser do is go out and try to make an IG video of him trying to fucking Viking press 600 pounds and he fucking fucks up his shoulder. Then he has to go to the meet because he can't get the airline ticket refunded. He can't lift, and these other people that are expecting him to do meets and greets on behalf of those title sponsors has now kind of got fucked off. So that kind of pressure and obligation, I've had times where I've wanted to pull out of a meet, or I probably should have not taken on as many meets back to back to back as I did. That's the advice. I would say go with companies who believe in you and who believe in your person and your character, not just what you do on the platform.
Would you have listened to yourself?
I would have.
Yeah,
I would have because I came up. You got to remember, I came up. I came up as the underdog. I came up when I first going and started winning pro shows. Nobody knew who I was. I had to create my own hype. I wasn't one of these people. And I can say this early on in my career, and it's something I struggle with now, but I've done a better job at managing it, and I've done a better job at taking control and accountability for myself. Early on, I never noticed as just a bench presser. I just wanted to be the best bench presser I could. So I would train and I would do everything how I thought I was supposed to do it to be great at the bench press. So I would use the term functionally fat or not aesthetically pleasing. I didn't realize the criticism about the aesthetics on how I carried myself until I got myself in a couple controversial videos pitting myself against like an Eddie Hall, or early on in my career against Hulk, Kevin the Hulk Washington. There was a couple videos of me and him getting into it at the Olympia where it went viral. And I learned early on from that because it was a bodybuilding show, a bodybuilding platform, the Olympia stage, that all the comments were going to go 100% in his favor because he aesthetically was a beast. He did a video with CT. It was the hot video at the time. I mean, the guy looks the part. He looks like he could, what he says he can do and what he's ever done and what he actually does are three different things. So when he got in my face and I do 700 pounds raw, 600, he looked the part, so it was very believable. Even though out of the two of us, I'm the only one till this day that's competed and went over 600 pounds 30 plus times in competition. Till this day, he has never bench pressed 600 pounds in a legitimate competition. But the onus was on me because I aesthetically look like shit. And I'm not saying I'm like an Adonis now, but I've had to work at that image part of it because that's what people want to see. That's what's marketable. Yeah. And so that's so because I've always had that chip on my shoulder and because I've never had the backing of the pharmas or the big companies because I wasn't aesthetically pleasing to push their products, I had to, one, be very efficient at what I did. I had to be the best because the number one argument against me is like, the guy looks like shit. But then it was like, he looks like shit, but he's strong as fuck. So then it turned into, I just had to own my niche and be very great. And then I started to endorse the products that lend themselves to me being the best, not, looking the part and then endorsing the product. I had to functionally be the best and then happen to endorse the product. So yeah, I had no mentorship. So of course I know 100% I would listen to myself because I was hungry for that kind of advice.
Yeah, I've the one, if I could go back and tell myself something, it would be like, try and get more advice and take it. Because I was very like my coach in college when I started powerlifting, he had his method that like he evolved since when he started in the 70s. And like, it was basically like he did what he did and didn't pay attention to anyone else. And that was it. And that was all, that was my whole world, was his method. And, now that, I've seen so many different things and variations of things. So yeah, that's what I would have told myself. Just try and get some opinions from people and listen to them. Yo, what's the dumbest thing you ever seen in the gym?
The dumbest thing I've ever seen in the gym.
I know you've got a good story from like 30 years of lifting.
The dumbest thing I've ever seen in the gym. There's so many different things. I mean, what might seem, I would say I would say, I think the number one gripe I have with the gym is probably just, I have a hard time for people who go out of their way to deem all men as kind of like chauvinist or kind of, here's the point I'm getting at, because you see this all the time. You see stuff like say an Instagram model could do a post and a guy who's nobody or not a sponsor or not anybody can go on and leave a bunch of heart emojis, all the other stuff. And it's like, oh my gosh, this guy's a fan or he's weirdo creepo. If you're someone known from a supplement company and you do the same thing, it's like, oh my gosh, how can we meet? Same thing at the gym. You see these women wear close to nothing, or they wear those new pants that everybody's wearing that kind of like just go. So if a guy they like, or you know what I mean, says something to them, oh, that guy's so nice, he's so sweet, he wants to help me, he's a personal trainer. Anybody else says something, they're catcalling, they're so disrespectful. And I'm just like, there comes a point when you just gotta own it. If you go dress provocatively, I'm not condoning the men who do stupid shit, but some of these women, it's like, because I see this stuff happen at the gym. I'll see people wear the most provocative stuff, and when they get flirted on by the bodybuilder guys or the guys that they deem acceptable to flirt with them, oh, it's the best outfit they ever wore. And then if it's some scrawny, like 100-pound guy soaking wet with, Coke bottle glasses and comes up and, gets on the machine next to them, doesn't even say a word, this guy's a creeper, stalker, and they have so many stories to tell. And the guys probably just get on the machine trying to work out, not even paying any attention to the girl. But I think the society we live in predicates that kind of like victim, damsel in distress kind of mentality. And I see that play out at the gym so many times. And it doesn't get under my skin. It just irritates me when I see it play out, because it's the biggest double standard. I think, and that goes against, like, I think all people should be treated equal and treat others the way they want to be treated. But I think when you put yourself on this pedestal that everybody is just there to pay attention to you, I think as a society, we kind of lose focus on why we're all going to the gym. And it starts to become this kind of like sexist, classist thing, like only so many people can go and comment, or so many people can be on machines without people looking at them or whatnot.
Yeah, man, well, you're a little older than me. I'm getting it too. And the world is changing, and we're not a part of it anymore. We're just going to have to get used to that.
Yeah.
It's just, everything's changing so fast. And I'm just like, I feel like I'm 100 years old. I don't know, like stupid stuff like at schools that like you do, and it would be no problem at school. The teachers would take care of it, or no one would say anything. Like now, like, oh my God, I got a phone call from school. My son said the girl's butt looked like a peach. It's a big deal. And he's 9 years old.
He got hit with the pizza emoji.
Like a I'm like what? I'm like, really? I'm like, he's 9 years old. Who did?
Yeah.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal. Oh, he said that. Now I gotta have a whole big talk with him. No, he can't talk. But
Yeah, he's oppressing women and holding them back.
yeah, exactly.
And look, I know you might have viewers out there triggered by me laughing at this, but I mean it's one of those things where it's like, you know what, you did something, someone's offended, you say they're sorry. But now it's like they want you to make this huge, it has to be an event. You know, we're gonna make an example of this, and yeah, it's too much.
Do you do any stretches for your biceps?
You know what? I feel funny about saying this. Actually, I do. I do a lot of band stretches, and as of lately, I have a like a Life Pro or a Fit Gun that I'll kind of like in between sets when I'm warming up on my heavy days. I'll kind of use that.
That's cool. What's your stand? Well, no, you're not that old. Let's see what your answer is. What's your stance on music and mirrors in the gym?
On what?
Music and mirrors.
Mirrors, don't use them. Music, I'm kind of a I'm a kind of like a music. I'm not a fan of earbuds. I like the old school. I have a set of really like $300 some Bose, so that the noise cancel out. When I listen to my music, I ought to be in my zone. So I really don't care what the rest of the gym's listening to. But as far as etiquette, I believe in gym etiquette. I think there's stuff that should be tone sensitive. Like I have a hard time. It just depends. I'm old school. Like it's almost like prison. It's like prison, if you will. If you go to the gym early in the morning and the old school metal militia guys have the numbers, let them listen to their like 5-finger death punch or their Metallica, whatever the case may be. And I'm not saying I don't like it. It's just not my genre. But if they have the numbers, let them listen to it. You know what I mean? But don't be up in arms when you come at 5 PM and the brothers have the numbers and you're listening to Jay-Z, and Big Pun. It kind of is what it is. But I think like during traditional hours, I think it should be, kind of top 40, kind of not too far one way or the other. But I think nowadays most of the people go with their own music, so I don't think it's too big of an issue.
Me and my wife have to switch it up, the back and forth, her playlist and mine, and most of hers is Beanie Man.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, the one thing I do is I'm like, when I do, like, if I'm doing like a really heavy lift or heavy set, I'm like, all right, just pause it for a minute. Like do my set, I had to put it back.
Yeah. Me, my playlist, believe it or not, is Basio Pedora. I'm listening to like the Conan soundtrack throughout most of my heavy lifts. I listen to the Conan soundtrack. When I'm in something that's like very like I got to be in tune, and if it's a timing thing, like when I'm doing curls and it's under tension, if I'm doing any kind of tension, or if I'm doing holds for like 30 seconds, I'm listening to Enya.
Yeah.
Crazy if a lot of people like Enya, or if I want to get hype, I'm like listening to probably like Nirvana, the Cranberries, that kind of stuff, Marilyn Manson, a little bit of different kind of stuff like that.
Where do you see the sport of powerlifting going in the future? Because I think since CrossFit became a huge thing, a lot of people have left CrossFit and gone to different things like powerlifting or Olympic lifting. So we've got a lot of people from CrossFit. The sport's gotten a lot larger. There's way more people competing now than there were 20 years ago.
I think the combination of social media accessibility and the accessibility of the sport. I think there's so many federations. It's so easy to go to a gym. I mean, you go to your average mom and pop gym outside of like say a Gold's or your box gyms, you're gonna have someone within 6 degrees of separation. You're gonna have someone that's either a meet director or someone who knows someone who's a coach, or can get you in touch with a powerlifting meet if that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
And then I think with Instagram, it puts facial recognition and personality recognition to athletes, versus we kind of didn't have that before. Kind of like ESPN was what helped us get inside the locker room. What ESPN is that generational gap that kind of helped the masses know Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, know the athletes more from the personalities, and then it helped lend for the athletes and help make them easily more accessible and relatable to the consumer. So I really think that you're going to see, through means of social media, private enterprise, private market, you're going to see the influencer become a more pivotal role and help create the marriage and the synopsis of I think the two are going to keep climbing. There's a bigger, it used to be a niche thing. Now there's a need for more drinks, food, just the lifestyle across the board. And so with that, it's going to be more grassroots, organic, from the people that have been doing the sport for a long time, going to lend their way to, to other people, because it's so much accessible. It's easier to go out and become, the next best thing in powerlifting, more so than it is to become the next Aaron Rodgers. It's a lot more relatable. It's a lot more accessible. And I think you're really starting to see that people can really kind of grow the sport and grow it from like the entrepreneurial side of it as well.
Yeah. I think a big factor that's making powerlifting more friendly to people coming into it is the unequipped lifting, raw lifting.
Oh yeah, raw is helping the sport grow exponentially.
Yeah, because it's so much easier to go into. Because if you're just a guy in the gym, you're lifting, you squat, and then you're like, how do I get this suit on? How do I put these wraps on? And it's a big deal. So it's hard to do. It's a lot.
Yeah, well, it's kind of become more of, with, like I said, with social media and accessibility, it's kind of become the new kind of breeding grounds for the next big thing, if you will, no pun intended. Like, say, many, many years ago, it would have taken, you'd have to be in favor or have an agent for a guy like Thor to break into Hollywood.
Yeah.
Versus now, through him having a very accessible social media and name recognition from being a strongman, he got a couple roles, then he became Mountain, and then now it's synonymous. Okay, are we talking Thor Mountain from Game of Thrones? Or are we talking the Thor, that's going to box Eddie Hall? Or are we talking Thor that's the world's strongest man? It's so interchangeable and so easily recognizable versus, 5-6 years ago, he probably just would have only been recognized as, a huge guy from Iceland that's a world's strongest man competitor.
Yeah.
Look at The Rock. Rock's a prime example. Rock could up and come. I mean, you have guys like Larry Wheels that could easily go from powerlifting to a Hollywood screen and be proverbial like the next Rock, or you know what I mean? Because it's becoming where IG is creating and putting powerlifters almost in the realm of entertainment. It's social entertainment.
Yeah, meet directors have been I think they've kind of been focusing on it the last couple of years. It's been starting on, how do we make this entertaining? How do we get people to come that aren't just the family members of the lifters? You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, that's, and for as far as I've been involved, it's kind of been like this new movement where most of your meet directors are kind of old school old heads, where you need the meet doesn't need you, to now it's one of these things. The people, say for example, a guy like Larry Wheels could go to New York and do a meet, and everybody's going to come to Larry Wheels, versus they don't give a fuck about what federation it is. That's going to be secondary. Versus 10 years ago, the meet directors were in control of the publicity and the hype and everything behind the meet. And it's like, hey, here's this prestigious, like, you go back 5-6 years ago, it was Boss of Bosses is featuring lifters X, Y, and Z. Now you get a guy like Larry Wheels, Eddie Hall, or someone, or Julius Maddox, or someone. Hey, this guy is doing that meet. All of a sudden, that's like a headliner event, and then whatever federations hold it is now secondary.
Yeah.
You know, like I'll give you a great example. I can tell you, and maybe this is a bad example because I can't tell you exactly, but look at the exhibition match between Mayweather and Logan.
Yeah.
It's like, I couldn't even tell you what federation hosted that, but I know, but everybody knows was lining up for pay-per-view and to watch the event.
Yeah. I guess these star athletes, even I know, I don't know if it was the first competition that did it, but there was a competition in Ireland a little over a year ago before this COVID thing. They actually had like a live band at the concert, a live band at the competition playing music. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah. And like you said, meet directors, I think meet directors are going to have to start getting more creative because I've called this the last couple of years. I call it the LeBron James effect. That you have the athletes now control the market share and can say, you want me to do this, or you want me to put, if I'm going to put asses in seats, I need to be compensated. Yeah. You know what I mean? And now it's no longer, you have the star power of one or two of these athletes making a meet a household thing versus very few federations hold that kind of credibility.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't think there's anyone in 100% Raw. There's nothing. I don't think there's any big meets that get drawn like that. It's pretty old school vanilla powerlifting organization. That's where I lift. I've lifted in before that. It was the ADAU, but you probably wouldn't know that. That was mostly Pennsylvania.
Yes.
I did lift in the USAPL twice. So that was, I mean, obviously everyone knows the USAPL, but I left. Well, my whole team, actually, a college team. Well, we left the USAPL because we were all lifting Raw at the time, in 2001, and I think there was only 100% Raw at the time in ADAU. I don't think we even knew about 100% Raw, but yeah, we went to USAPL and they thought we were insane, like not wearing equipment. Like back then, it was like unheard of because I think 100% Raw and ADAU, they both started in 1999.
Yeah, back then, same time I was growing up, everything was equipped. It was equipped. But it's also because Inzer and all those companies controlled the media at the time. So they had the general masses, like you had Powerlifting USA, and I think another one, it was you either with Titan or Inzer, or you were in it. It's like, who are you? Yeah. You know what I mean? That's what I thought as a powerlifter. I grew up with a chip on my shoulder. So I was like, fuck, I can't make this magazine. I can't get a cover. I can't get Inzer to want to sponsor me. I can't get Titan. I remember back in the day, I thought that was the end all. Man, if I can only get Titan to want to sponsor me or Inzer. And now that I'm pro and I know what their contracts are, I was like, they'd have to super pay me to wear their stuff. You know what I mean?
You know, it's so funny how like things like numbers change, right? Like back in the 90s, like I trained with that Pat Susko.
Yeah.
He squatted 925. I mean, back in, I think it was 1992 or 1993. He was on the cover of Powerlifting USA magazine. It was like the biggest deal in the world, 925. Like now, like no one will care.
Yeah.
You know, it's so weird how things change like that. Like I don't know. Is it? What do you think it is? Do you think it's training methods, or there just more people in the sport that maybe you get the chance that you have a better lifter?
I think it's. I think there's more people entering the pool. You know what I mean? I think there's more people going. I think there's more people going to the water park. And two, news travels so fast versus back then, you're only hearing about it once a month. Now, you can go hit a PR and someone else can smash your PR, smash those numbers that you've never heard of. You know, it only takes one workout session, one viral video for someone to become the new it guy overnight.
I think it's more motivating for those guys now too, right? Like, if you're just training in your gym and trying to beat your own PR, I mean, that's motivating. But when there's a guy that just beat your, national record, you're like, that's a little extra
Yeah.
in the tank when you hit that squat or your curl or whatever. I'm running out of questions. I'm all burnt out. The questions.
All right. We'll have to do it again.
Yeah, man. Yeah, definitely after my next meet, if I don't curl more, I'm gonna get in touch with you. I'm coming to Texas.
Hey, I'll welcome it, man. I'll welcome it.
And no, I'm gonna tag you when I do some of my workouts, and don't make fun of how little I'm doing. All right.
Okay, it's not like I said. It's all relative. You just be the best version of you can be every day.
All right. Hey man, thanks so much for doing this, man. Yeah, you are like a curl superstar, man. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you for having me on, man. You have a great day.
Bye.